Hello, good evening, and welcome to the Cadenhead Amateur Dramantic Society tasting. And tonight I'm going to do the third and final of the videos of Whisky Up the Buckie Road. We went all the way to Macduff to start with, where we tasted a couple of Macduff whiskies. Then we went to Glenglassaugh, where we had a lengthier stop. And now we're going all the way back to Buckie, back down the Buckie Road, and we're just outside Buckie at Inchgower, which was built in 1871 by Alexander Wilson and Company to replace the Cadenhead distillery. The original equipment from Cadenhead was even used in the establishment of Inchgower. And production started the same year and continued successfully until the business began to encounter difficulties and was liquidated in 1936 when Alexander Wilson and Company filed for bankruptcy. Inchgower Town Council bought the distillery from the company, who then sold it on to Arthur Bell and Sons. They made a series of modernisations to Inchgower, including increasing the number of stills from 2 to 4, doubling the capacity and bringing it to its modern ability. In 1965, Arthur Bell and Sons was taken over by Guinness, who were then merged with United Distillers and Vintners in 1987. Diageo, the whisky industry giant, eventually bought Guinness, therefore acquiring Inchgower. They closed it in 2006 for a year to launch a major refurbishment. And one of the most significant changes was the installation of a so-called closed yeast pitching system that added yeast to the wash automatically, which gave an added degree of control over the style of whisky, but it is less traditional. And as the distillery has moved into the 21st century, it's gone from strength to strength. In 2004, it released a 27-year-old bottling from 1976, which was received with great critical acclaim. And hopefully the rest of this century will continue to bring such great releases. The water is drawn from a burn in the nearby Macduff Hills, which lies to the south of Buckie. Because Inchgower draws its water from this source, the spirit is technically classed as a lower Speyside malt. The distillery has a production capacity of almost 3 million litres. It's powered by 4 pot stills, 2 washes, 2 spirit. They have a pear shape with an extremely wide spherical lids and tall conical necks. The flat top of the still results in a slightly higher degree of reflux, as the progress of the vapours is not as gradual and progressive than it is with necks of the more common Speyside style still. Wash stills have a capacity of 12,500 litres, and the spirit still is slightly smaller at 7,200 litres. It's got a history of being a self-sufficient distillery. It even housed its own cooperage, which was unique, and it used to use its own floor maltings. But nowadays it sources its malt from a Diageo-owned malting facility in Burghead, 20 miles to the west of Buckie, and the malt is unpeated. Even though it's a small-scale distillery, it has an impressive warehouse facility. Houses 13 dunnage and racked on-site warehouses, which can house up to 60,000 casks. Uses a combination of sherry and American oak cask, although sherry is used more often than American oak. And the majority of the spirit housed in the warehouses isn't Inchgower's single malt, as they serve as a storage space for many other Diageo distilleries, which is quite unusual. Official bottlings released from Inchgower are few and far between, making them an interesting addition to any collection. There is only 3 official bottlings for buyers to choose from, which consist of a 14-year-old bottling which is released as part of the Flora and Fauna range, and the rare malts collection bottlings, which have included a 22-year-old and a 27-year-old. But independent bottlings are quite plentiful. Hunterland, Gordon MacPhail, Douglas Lang, and there's a strong variety of age and vintage amongst the indie bottlings, which makes the process of choosing a single bottle more difficult. One of the reasons for the scarce number of official bottlings is that the vast majority of the single malt is used in blending. Only 1% of the spirit distilled at Inchgower is sold as single malt. The Bells family owned the distillery for a significant portion of time, and as a result, Inchgower became an important component in the Bells blends, as well as Johnnie Walker and White Horse blends. The new make spirit has a high toned nose and is very intense, with tomato sauce, green malt, and cucumber, and a slightly saline touch of geranium. The palate is acidic, nutty, spritzy with a sea spray feel, and it's tingling and spicy. And the finish is like salted nuts. So, I'm going to start off tonight. These are both independent bottlings. I've got a Scottish Malt Whisky Society Cask number 18.46 Bandyportfölj, which is 13-year-old, 58.6%. Because we almost see nothing from official bottlings from Inchgower, which is heavily, the Flora and Fauna 14-year-old, which is heavily coloured and reduced to 43%. And you get it as a rare appearance in special releases or the rare malts. So if you want to try some, you really do need to depend on indie bottlings to get some not overly dressed in chill filtration and E150 colouring. This 2009 Inchgower was matured for 13 years in a first fill ex Oloroso sherry hogshead before being bottled at 58.6, non-chill coloured and non-chill filtered. So this one is in the deep, rich and dried fruits profile of the Scottish Malt Whisky Society. Was a selection of the panel from Sweden. There were 262 bottles of this. So it's quite a dark colour, fully matured in an ex Oloroso sherry. First fill, ex Oloroso sherry, hogshead. So, and it's got nice tears. And you definitely tell this is Oloroso cask mature. Get some rancio, leather, old dusty books and some mustiness. Chocolate with a cherry liqueur and some herbal and old school notes. Cereals, marzipan, as an overripe apple, pears. It's quite earthy and it looks quite full-bodied and soft, spicy, woody, angry and meaty beef. It's quite an aggressive nose, and you do get a hint of that vinegary ketchup and a slight nuttiness too. Try them out. It's quite a spicy arrival with some rich flavours of orange, chocolate, mulled spices, smoked meat, unsweetened barbecue sauce, and a few drops of soy sauce. And that tomato ketchup is now coming as brown sauce, HP brown sauce, a balsamic reduction, a little iron, and some pepper spice. And the finish, get mulled spices with orange juice and smoked ham, milk chocolate and a bit of brown sugar at the end, sweetness, sherried, buttery on the finish, diet iron brew and some bitter aspartame. I'm going to try a mill of water in this. And I may even add a little more in a moment. And now you get some earthy notes like a very old brandy, dried mushrooms, dried wood. Try them out. And with water, you get a drier mouthfeel. It becomes spicier. Some heat on the tongue. Chili pepper and Tabasco sauce. More chocolate, milk chocolate. It's not dark chocolate, it's milk chocolate. Pear and hazelnut. And the finish is raspberry, slightly dull in the finish. It's some region like I'm going to add another 1.5 mils on this. And the earthy notes become fresher. Still get the cognac in the background. And it's fresh mushrooms, cooked mushrooms now. I'd say there's more creaminess to the palate with more water. And it's less spicy with the more water. Pears become more pronounced, and the hazelnuts. And more raspberry on the finish, fresher finish, slightly shorter with more water. It's quite an active Oloroso said. So we're not going to learn much about the naked Inchgower. But it's quite a nice combination with a brandy-like earthy nose and quite energetic palate. It's a bit of fun, and there's some margin to play around with water with this one. I'm going to cleanse my palate again. So next one's a Cadenhead Inchgower 14-year-old, which was matured in a refill PX cask, bottled at 46%. So I wonder what this does to the spicy new make spirit of Inchgower. It was distilled in 2009, bottled in 2024, and it was re-racked into refill PX casks in 2022, which previously held Springbank whisky, which will result possibly in a lightly peaty note on the palate. It's quite a unique hybrid that should hopefully introduce a unique hybrid of old style peat into the equation and refill sherry. It's a bit lighter than the Scottish Malt Whisky Society 13-year-old, but it has nice tears. And now you get sort of condensed milk, melted stringy toffee, stewed raisins, and it's got an old greenhouse nose to it. Almonds. And there are some light peaty notes, soft peat, white grapes, and there's a sort of farmy sludge. Green apples, pumpkin seeds. There's lime, a little salt, and lead, like an old glass. Sweet fudgy malt, banana and pear yeast. Sweetened apples, pork scratchings, fruity, sweaty salts, creamy vanilla, and lime clotted ice cream. Try them out. Oh, it's very gentle. Touch of the PX, but it's more of the peat that steps in. Like an empty matchbox, milk chocolate, sooty, salted caramel, and butterscotch. Salted caramel, wine gums, get the brine and the coastal elements. Sweet, honeyed vanilla with thick lozenge fruits. Tinctures of sweet lozenge and fruits in the body for the cereal malting notes stream through. On the mouth it's like cola syrup, honey roasted cashews, stale biscuits, toffee malt. It fades out slowly and nicely, a sort of lingering finish, not too powerful. I'm going to try a mil and a half of this. And it becomes more funky, saltier, and more coastal. Lemon and apple candy, wine gums, some sultanas, fresh hay, honey, and you get that floral rapeseed blossoms. Smells like summer. And then you get sweet, dark chocolate sherry liqueur, concentrated red berry fruits, cardamom and cumin spices, licorice and a sort of malty fudge, butter pancakes, chocolate sponge cake, vanilla and raisin tracker bars. Fruity wood oils, that yellow and red wine gums again, maraschino cherry. And then you get cinnamon, soft licorice, and hints of cocoa. And just in the background, there's a hint of smoke, which shouldn't be part of the Inchgower distillation. And the finish is chocolate, caramel fudge with mustiness. And after the huge freshness from licorice to fennel, it's quite porridgey at the death. So yes, this one is very much on the dirty side, but very interesting. And I also think the Springbank influence is quite noticeable in this. It's incredibly enjoyable. It's a uniquely modern creation, and it's the kind of bottling that only Cadenheads can craft, thanks to their access to these casks. And it's a true conversation starter. These are both fun drams from a Little Scene Whisky, and I think it's good to try something a little different to broaden our palate from time to time. Thank you for listening, and I hope you've enjoyed this trip up the Buckie Road.